Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining this morning. A couple things before we get to Lisa. We are recording this event, so if everyone will please stay muted, we would appreciate it. If you have any questions, please submit them to Lisa via the chat button on the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and she will answer them during the question and answer session at the end. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and pass it over to Lisa.
Good morning, Katie. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning on our webinar, Backing. You know, I always say it's an important topic, probably one of the most important topics. One of the things that I get asked about the most is on backing, but I always say it's not the sexiest topic or the most exciting topic to talk about. So I thank everyone for joining me this morning, and we'll get started. If anyone wants a copy of my PowerPoint slides, you can email me. My information is at the end, and I'll be glad to send those to you for you to have. Katie, are you still there? Because the PowerPoint is not advancing.
Yes. Let me look here. Okay, give me just a second here. Okay, you're just going to have to, up at the top where it says pages and has 01, 02, you're just going to have to click the, there you go, sorry.
Got it. Thank you. It wasn't working before. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. What we know is that motor vehicle crashes in the workplace, we know that they're the #1 reason for deaths. We know that. We already know that in Texas, you know, we rank fairly high for that, but we know that that is the #1 issue is motor vehicle crashes on the job. That results in job-related deaths. But we also know that it's preventable as well. So what else do we know? Well, we know that people want to look at like vehicle maintenance, environmental, but what we truly know is that the human factor is probably about 93% of the time, and it's definite about 70% of the time. So if we know that, we really need to look at what we can do differently when we're driving. And what I can tell you is I do a lot of speaking and a lot of talking with employers. Backing collisions and backing is one of the most common and the most asked about from employers and the biggest issue that they seem to face, which would actually, when you look at the data and the statistics, we know that driving occupies less than 1% of a driver's time, but that regularly produces about 25% of all collisions. So that definitely follows suit with what we know. So we also know that backover, the leading cause of fatalities for workers in work zones, is being run over or backed over by vehicles. That is a big problem. That happens in a lot of work zones, whether we're talking on a highway work zone or we're talking at a construction work zone. It doesn't matter what work zone or what we're talking about. We know that backovers are also a big problem. So what we also know is the cost. So it's not just simply an injury, a fatality, but there's cost that the employer is impacted by. So we look at that and we know that at least 24,000 if somebody's injured and at least 125,000 if there is if the employee is injured, excuse me, it's over 125,000. So we know that the crash, there's a significant impact to that employer no matter what. So let's talk about how do you avoid it. Well, first of all, I always tell people try to avoid backing whenever possible. There was a school district we were working with, and they had put a policy into place that, you know, the buses could only do right turns, basically that they had to be using right turns to get to all their locations. That helped them significantly in some of the issues that they were having. Sometimes that took a little bit longer, but those right turns avoided a lot of the other issues that they were facing, especially when they were crossing traffic and some other things that happened. But you want to avoid backing whenever you can. You want to look for opportunities at corners, behind red zones, and other environments where people cannot park in front of you. You want to look for opportunities to be able to put that vehicle where it's going to decrease the chance that you're going to have to back. So we know that 25% of the crashes can be blamed on poor backing techniques. We tend to become complacent when we drive. You know, we'll do a lot with DDC, we'll do a lot of things like that, but really we tend to become complacent. We kind of do things the same way over and over, whether it's the right technique or the wrong technique. And so poor backing techniques can be blamed on about 25%. And we know that according to NHTSA, there are nearly 210 deaths yearly that are attributed to backovers and backing. So we know that backing is an issue, So we have to figure out how to address it and what we can do and implement to change that. So again, many common causes of collisions. Many drivers don't pay enough attention. Absolutely. We're thinking about something else, doing something. We might get in our vehicle and immediately we start to drive, or but we don't take enough time to really pay attention. And unfortunately, that happens with backing just like anything else. We're in a hurry. We don't allow enough time to make decisions, to check our surroundings. So it's really important that we look at that. So we want to avoid distracted driving too, because when you get in a vehicle, if you're not paying attention, you're not really looking focused, that's distracted driving. So we know that each day 9 people are killed and that we know 1,060 are injured daily. So we know that, and we know that that's probably an unreported or a underreported number. So we know it's important to look at. So when we get behind the wheel to do any type of driving, but especially backing, we need to make sure that we avoid being distracted when we're doing it. So if you must back, if that's the only choice you have, you need to look, you need to think, and you need to plan. You want to look at the targeted backing area. What area around you are you backing? You need to look high, you need to look low. Are there cables? What are the potential hazards around you? Scan the entire area for potential dangers. And you want to watch for changes as you approach your stopping point. Think about when you're getting to where you're going, is that going to be the best place when you're backing? So when you're parking, you want to be automatically thinking about when you're leaving that position. So you want to plan ahead. Techniques for backing. Evaluate the parking environment and some unique characteristics. Absolutely. Where are you parked? Is it a good location to park? Scan the parking area and plan for your departure when you choose your parking space. That is probably one of the best things that you can do when you get to that location and you need to park your vehicle. Figure out what's your departure point? How are you going to be able to depart from where you're at? Did you park where somebody else can block you in? Did you park in a situation that's going to create some obstacles for you? Look for opportunities to avoid backing. Use pull-through or curbside spaces if available. I think that's great. I was at a OSHA meeting a couple months ago, and I knew where I was at when I was at the STEPS Network meeting, and I pulled into the parking lot, and almost every single vehicle, all these big trucks either backed in or had pulled through. And I was extremely impressed to see that they were doing that because they were eliminating some of the issues that they might face. And especially with big trucks, they sit up higher, so sometimes it's hard to see what's behind you. So also think about what objects are around your vehicle and how close are they to your vehicle. That's a really big thing. I always say when you get to that vehicle, look around it. Don't assume you know what's around your vehicle. When you walk out to that vehicle, the surroundings can change. You may have only been gone for 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. Maybe you ran in one place, came back out, went and talked to another employee, and you came back to your vehicle. But before you get back in that vehicle, you need to do a 360 walk around. I know TxDOT has done a couple different things with their vehicles that have been very effective. They put cones on the top of their vehicle that say 360. It's an orange cone. So when they pull into a parking space, they'll put a cone on the top of the vehicle that says 360. As a result of that, sometimes they've gotten their vehicle driven off, so they've lost some of those cones, so they're also looking at doing something where they tie an orange strip on that driver's handle to remind them to do that 360. But that is really important. That's a great thing to implement with people who are driving. Know what may be under and above your vehicle as well as what's around it. Take a second, look underneath that vehicle. Again, it only takes a second to double check your surroundings, but it can certainly prevent a lot of issues with a crash or a collision or a fatality as a result. Think about the blind spots. So there are blind spots when you're driving. Navigate those blind spots. Obtain backing guidance from a person outside the vehicle. Make sure your guide is reliable and the signals being used are mutually understood. You could have somebody guiding you outside that vehicle, but if you both are not using the same signals, you will not understand what each other is saying, and you may make the wrong decision and the wrong choice. So when you can, it's important to use somebody else to help you back, especially to navigate those blind spots. Never overlook the possibility of an unknown or forgotten object that your front quarter panel can hit when you turn the vehicle into backing. Absolutely. That's why a 360 walk around is extremely beneficial. That 360 walk around helps you because there may be that unknown or something that happened in just a matter of a few minutes that you're not aware of. So do not overlook the combined use of your mirrors, your cameras, your sensors. We've got a lot of technology that's happening, but nothing's more important than you yourself taking the time to walk around the vehicle, turn your head, look, scan, use everything that you have within your means to keep you safe, the vehicle safe, and your surroundings safe. So And again, most incidents occur when people miscalculate. If they don't take the time, and again, it only takes a couple minutes to do that walk around, to look, to double check, look left, look right, look over your shoulder. That only takes a couple minutes to do, but it certainly keeps that environment and that area safer and that driver safer as well. Again, move your head and eyes to scan the entire area around your vehicle. Don't fixate on one object when you're backing, and back slowly. That's really important because if you back quickly, your damage is definitely going to be more significant than if you're backing slowly. Incorporate the available technology in your scanning pattern, but don't use it exclusively. Absolutely. We as a society have a lot more technology than we've ever had, but it's really important that we don't depend on it only and solely and use it exclusively. We want to incorporate everything that we have in our power to make sure that we're keeping ourselves and our vehicles safe at all times. Also, look for a parking space with the fewest threats to your safety. You know, I tend to be somebody who, when I'm parking, I will look at a parking space that's kind of a little bit further out, especially if it's in the daytime and it's safe. I know the area where we're parking. I'm going to look for that parking space that's a little bit further out. So that it provides you that greatest cushion of space. It provides that space around your vehicle, and so that helps to avoid collisions. So it's really important when you're thinking about where you're going to think about what's going to happen later on, not just parking, but what's going to happen when you need to leave. Whenever possible, find a parking space that's surrounded by space. Back no further than you must. A lot of times, and I've got teenagers that have been driving for a little while, and that's my big thing when they start backing is back only as far as you need to. Do not continue backing if you don't need to. Back only as far as you need to. And you want to choose a site with the fewest hazards, whether it's other objects, vehicles, people, whatever. But choose a location based on the fewest hazards. That is really important. Eye contact. When I talked about using somebody else that's helping you, eye contact is a major component of proper communication. That happens even like when you're at a four-way stop or anything else. Eye contact can assure ourselves that our intentions have been understood, that people know what we're doing. So it doesn't always guarantee safety, but it helps with communication. So eye contact with people that are outside that vehicle and around you is very important. Think about communication when you're backing. You can give your horn a light tap, friendly tap, not a mean tap, just a light, friendly tap. Use your four-way flashers for communication. Hand signals, again, friendly gestures with those hand signals. And use your brake. Stop and wait until it's clear. Double check. But again, how do you communicate? Do you have this conversation with your employees on, are we using, similar communication? Or is everybody on the team using the same signs, the same signals? Are we all doing the same thing so we understand what each other is saying? Or do different departments and different groups use different types of backing up communication? That's really important to know and understand and try and use something uniform across the lines with your company. Again, make sure somebody sees you. Seek eye-to-eye contact. If you don't have eye-to-eye contact, someone may not have seen you. Again, use the warning devices to alert others. A lot of vehicles in work zones do have that backing up where the vehicle automatically beeps when they're backing, and that's wonderful. Don't move the vehicle until you're absolutely sure it's safe. Don't assume anything. Make sure that you're absolutely sure it's safe. And don't assume others know that you're backing. Again, that is the biggest thing that you can do is assume your area is safe and assume that everybody else knows what your intentions are. Back in upon arrival instead of departure. That is one of the best things that you can do. When you have to back into a stall or you arrive where it's only a stall-only parking, back. Back into that instead of having to back later because you know what your surroundings are right then, but your surroundings may change when you get ready to leave. Don't assume you know what's around that vehicle. Just like I said, a 360 walk around should be an automatic thing that occurs when you get to that vehicle. Always do that 360 walk around. Even when you get a pull out of a space, it does not hurt to stop and do that 360 walk around to double check what's around that vehicle. Good drivers develop habits that let them prevent backing collisions. Absolutely. Good drivers have good habits, and these are developed habits. Habits are anything that you do consistently, and they automatically become a habit. So and they can do good habits. And again, remember that every backing situation is different and new. Just because you're assigned a parking space does not mean the environment won't change around that parking space. So you need to realize that every backing situation is new and different. You need to know that that vehicle's blind spots. One thing I like to talk about is that employee driving the same vehicle all the time, or do they drive different vehicles for the job they do? Do different people share vehicles? How does that work with your company? So you need to really know the driver and the vehicle. It may be different blind spots because they change different vehicles. They may not drive that same vehicle all the time. Park defensively. Again, as I said, do a walk around, use that spotter. These are things that are going to ensure good habits. These are things that you want to do on a continual, ongoing basis every single time that you're backing. But again, know what your blind spots are, and that's one thing I think is really key to remember is what vehicle is that person driving, and if they change vehicles, does that change the blind spots so that they know them? So what can you do? Again, think about departure upon your arrival. Pull through or back in first. Do the 360-degree walk around. Make that a company policy that everybody that's driving company vehicles is doing that 360 walk around. Eliminate the clustering of equipment in the work zone and positioning equipment to eliminate backing as much as possible. Absolutely. Figure out how your work zone and your construction site or where you're going, see how you can eliminate where those vehicles are constant if they have to back. See how you can eliminate in those work areas. Use spotters. Make sure people know how to spot. Do you just automatically assume everybody knows how to spot and help somebody? Make sure the people that are spotters understand what their responsibility and use those spotters. Don't have somebody get in a vehicle and not just assume they can do it. If you have people there, use those spotters. Again, park away from main entrances and the high traffic volume areas at convenience stores or other locations. Park away from those areas. That will decrease the volume of vehicles that are around your vehicle. Again, back in when you arrive, pull through when possible. These are a couple of the key points. After checking behind your vehicle, get in and start backing immediately. If they've done a 360 walk around and then they stop, have some conversations with somebody else, do something else, then they get in their vehicle to leave, something else may have changed or gotten behind the vehicle. So once they've done that 360 walk around, that's when they need to immediately get in the vehicle and slowly back out from where they're at. I want to thank everybody for joining us for our mini webinar today on backing. As I said, it is one of the most important issues. It is one of the issues that cause the most as far as collisions and crashes, yet we do it the least amount of time, and we probably spend the least amount of time thinking about backing and the techniques and the things that keep us safe. So I hope that you can take some of the information from today's slides and the information we've talked about and take that back to your company and have a couple safety talks with your employees. Does anybody have any questions for me this morning?
Hey, Lisa?
Yes.
It's not necessarily a question, but when you were speaking about TxDOT and about how they put the 360, the cone on the top of the vehicle,
yes.
We have a participant, William Howard, with TxDOT, and he said now they actually apply a flag on both the driver rear and the passenger front of the vehicle to further enforce the importance of the 360. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. I really appreciate him sharing that with us.
Absolutely. William, thank you. I know that they were getting ready to make a change, and I thought they were going to be doing like a ribbon or something similar to that on the door handle. So that's wonderful. That's great. And I think a lot of different companies are doing some different things like that. Do you find that that's been helpful? Anybody out there want to share anything that they find that has been more helpful or more beneficial with their companies that they've implemented?
I went ahead and unmuted everyone.
Well, I don't see that we have any more questions. Here is my contact information. Feel free to email me. Feel free to give me a phone call if there's anything that I can do to help you or your company with any sort of traffic safety or anything like that regarding backing or anything else. Thank you for your time today.
Muted. Lisa, William replied it was a magnetic ribbon, and yes, it has really helped out.
Wonderful. I knew that they were looking. That's great. I love the fact. Have you found, I am curious, William, have you found that any of those magnetic ribbons have been stolen or taken off the vehicles? We used to have some magnetic bumper stickers that talked about distracted driving and things like that. We found that those were stolen off the vehicles quite often because they were magnetic. I'm wondering if any of those, and I can't see your response, so maybe Katie can share that. Do you find that those flags have been stolen at all, those magnetic flags?
He says not really.
Wonderful. I have not seen them yet, but I will be looking forward to seeing those because I'm actually speaking at an OSHA meeting, and I want to make sure that I share that as well. Any other comments or thoughts anyone else wants to share?
William said he'll send a picture.
Thank you, William. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for your time.